ask you a question. What do your contemporaries in modern country music, what do they think of this side of your career?
Oh, man, it's hard. You know, I don't know if there's anyone out there that's doing what I'm doing really, you know, loves it or knows as much about it from my world. The guys in my band love bluegrass music. You know, Brian Lace and Ricky, you know Brian, and Tim Surgeon, who plays, you know, he's played with everyone. He's a great banjo. He's definitely underutilized. A lot of the guys in my band are underutilized, way overly skilled, but they all love it, and we listen to it a lot. And as far as my contemporaries go, I don't know. I don't really spend it's weird being out on the road. You kind of hang out with your guys and don't really see a lot of anyone else unless it's at a memorial service or a backstage at some sort of award show. But amongst my band and people I hang out with, yeah.
Well, you're in a position, because of the fact that you get played on country radio and stuff, you're in a position to take bluegrass music and the elements of traditional country music and expose it to a whole lot of new people. And I think everybody in this room would cheer for that.
Oh, absolutely.
That you could do that.
I heard Kyle talk about, you know, and it's kind of like spread the news, you know, spread the news of bluegrass. And I don't, you know, my first two records, we had a track on there with the Del McCurry Band, Del, and I sang my very first record back in 2003, a song that I wrote called Train Travelin'. And then on the second record, Modern Day Drifter, we did A Good Man Like Me.
Thanks.
And so anybody buying one of my records, you know, immediately, if they hadn't known who Del was, they did. And then the Grascals were part of the third record I did, Terry and,
that's good.
And James up there. And so it's always been a part of it, you know, part of that. And that's what I've always loved about Ricky's records, is there's always been that, you know, element. You know, back when he was having huge country hits, a lot of the songs, and they were bluegrass songs, but nobody knew better. You know, they thought they were country songs. And
Kyle, what do you think? You think that somebody like Dierks, and I don't know how many others there are, but I mean, is this something that bluegrass really needs, something it can use? What's your take on the younger?
I think bluegrass benefits every time a guy like that takes the stage and says good things about bluegrass music. And I think bluegrass does need that. But moreover, Bill, I think country music needs this.
Amen.
Because what Dierks is doing is he is exposing country artists to something that is real. And what bluegrass is real music. This very well may be the last holdout for real music in American entertainment, bluegrass. And these guys who have discovered that and who recognize it, and you know, I mentioned Alan Jackson a while ago, having done a recent album, and so many others that have done bluegrass albums and play bluegrass songs. That's only good for the country fan as well, because they see a side of country music that is sadly missing, if I can editorialize a little bit. But it's great for bluegrass. It truly is.
I got a funny story, actually. In my hometown, when I go and visit, I had to go and meet with some school children there, and this little girl, she says, I see your name around here all the time. What do you do? And I said, well, I'm a singer. What kind of music? And I said, bluegrass. She says, oh, like Dierks Bentley sings.
I felt so bad. I was in my hometown. I was back in Phoenix, and Tim O'Brien was coming through town playing, and up in Sedona or somewhere, and I was reading, Tim O'Brien, reading the paper, you know, read this great article about Tim, and the first question she'd asked him in the paper was about, you know, working on my Up on the Ridge record, and a question about me and bluegrass. I'm like, oh gosh, you know, this is Tim O'Brien, you know, one of the greats of all time. Don't ask him about me, you know. And Tim was, you know, he said something. It's always good when someone like Dierks or Steve Martin, you know, gets into it, you know, and spreads the news of it and all that. But I'll always be a fan first and foremost, and a student of it second, and then you know, a picker. You know, wannabe strummer third, but I do love the music, and it's
okay. Question.
Big fan.
What does the bluegrass community think? And I'll just direct this to you, and everybody else wants to join in. When somebody like an Alan Jackson does a bluegrass album, do you resent that for any like maybe he's coming in to take away a spot that they could be playing a Ricky Skaggs record and they're playing Alan Jackson and I'm bluegrass and he's not? Do you resent that, or do you see that as a positive?
I think most bluegrass people see it as a real positive. However, there is a few that, you know, that's like how many bluegrass people does it take to screw in a light bulb? You know, one, and then two to stand around and cuss it because it's electric. You know, so, you know, but I've had so much criticism in the past 30 years. But, you're never going to please everybody. And I realized a long time ago, if I can please myself and please, I know I always try to please God in everything that I do with the music and always honor Him with it, But I just feel like, if we can please ourselves, that's a big task right there, and because we know what we like, we know what's good, and our friends and, our musician friends, they're always, always encouraging us, along the way, and I think that's a big part of what the music, especially with bluegrass. Now, me and Bobby was talking yesterday, about, just how it was back, in the older days, back in the 40s and 50s, with Flat Skaggs being in Monroe's band, and then Ralph and Carter Stanley starting, about that same time, and they were really the first band to come out of that Bill Monroe, Bill Monroe, Flat Skaggs sound that Bill had done, and just the animosity and the criticism and the judging that, but I don't think there's as much of it anymore. I think this younger generation, we're all fans of each other's. We all want to see each other do great, and the fact now that there's these elders that we've learned so much from are still around, and they mean the world to us. Mm-hmm. I think when you're encouraging others and blessing others and coming under others and telling them, how great they've been and what their music has meant to us. That's right. Then you ain't got time to criticize other things. You're spending all your time on focusing on the right thing, on really giving someone, building them up. And so I think that's what the music has needed for a long time. And there's just a lot of love and respect, I think, with the musicians.
There's no boy sitting back over here that knows a little bit about what you're talking about, because you have. He's been a part of your group, and he's played with Bobby and Sonny, and I'll talk about Paul Brewster. Yeah. You've got your own record out now.
Yes, sir. Sure do. Well, I had one I recorded about 10 years ago, and I've got a new one out now.
Only 10 years between records?
Yeah, that's just, Just
no need rushing things.
No, I'm not going to rush too. Don't get too fast in this bit.
So you've been a part of bluegrass music in one way or another? How many years?
Through my dad and everything else. The Brewster brothers back many years ago, and they tried out for the Solemn Old Judge way back in the 40s when my Uncle Ray was alive. And
so it's in your DNA.
Yeah, it sure is. I've been around it all my life, and I love it. And I love Ricky and Osborne brothers. Grew up with Sonny and Bobby, and it's. I feel like a fly on the wall today. I'm just a fly on the wall, and taking all this in from all this history, learning a lot, and going with it. People like Dierks, taking it to all these different places all around the world, and just showing it's a true love. It's not a joke. He's not kidding. Yeah. And it's real, and it's just like the music. It's real.